Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we sit down to unpack a source, we have a pretty good idea of what aisle of the library we're standing in.
Right. You usually know which shelf to pull from. You know the rules of the universe you're entering.
Exactly. But today, I feel like we're standing in the middle of the library, and someone has torn pages out of a graduate-level semiconductor physics textbook, a dusty grimoire of ancient magic, a farmer's almanac, and
A treatise on quantum mechanics.
right, and then taped them all together into this.
It is a chaotic mix, isn't it? We are looking at a source document titled Lavemezhu.md. And if I had to summarize the vibe for everyone listening, it's like if Silicon Valley decided to re-engineer the occult using transistor logic.
That is the perfect way to put it. I mean, usually we ease into the weird stuff, but here on page 1, we have field effect transistors sitting right next to moon magic and timeline reconfiguration.
It's jarring.
It is. But, and this is why we're covering it, it's not just random noise. There is a surprisingly coherent system here.
There is. It proposes what it calls a unified geometric ontology.
That's the big fancy term.
It is. But the core premise is actually simple, even if it is, well, radical. It argues that the Earth isn't just a rock floating in space. It is a living geoelectric organism. And more specifically, it functions exactly like a massive computer chip.
So our mission today is to decode this. We're going to walk through how this text connects the macrocosm, the Earth, as a giant circuit board down to the microcosm, which, believe it or not,
Turns out to be the human gut.
exactly.
And the applications it proposes. I mean, everything from controlling the weather to editing your own karma. It's a wild ride.
Okay, so let's start with the bedrock of this theory, the Earth as a semiconductor. Now, for the listeners who might not have an electrical engineering degree, the text leans heavily on the concept of a FET, or a field effect transistor.
Right.
We need to break that down because the whole theory kind of collapses if you don't get this part.
We do. And the FET is basically the switch that makes the modern world work. It's in your phone, your laptop, your car. To understand the document, you just need to visualize a garden hose.
Okay, I'm picturing a hose.
So you have water flowing through the hose, that's your current. And you have a foot stepping on the hose to stop the flow. That foot is the gate. In a transistor, you use a voltage field, the gate, to sort of pinch off the flow of electricity in a channel.
You turn the voltage on, the channel opens, electricity flows. Turn it off, it stops.
It's a switch controlled by a field. Simple as that.
Simple enough. You control the flow without physically cutting the wire. You just squeeze it with a field. So, in the Lavemezhu worldview, what is the hose? What are we stepping on?
The Earth itself is the hose. The document argues that the Earth's crust and mantle act as a massive conductive channel. And, science actually backs this part up. We know there are telluric currents, which are natural, low-frequency electric currents moving underground and through the sea.
So the ground beneath our feet is the wire.
Correct. But here is the leap the text makes. If the Earth is the wire, what is the foot stepping on the hose? What's the gate? The text claims it's a geo-solar field.
The Geo-Solar Field, you mean the sun?
The sun, the solar wind, and specifically the ionosphere, that layer of plasma high in our atmosphere. The document posits that disturbances in the solar wind act like the voltage on a transistor gate. They modulate or control the flow of electricity deep inside the Earth.
Wow, that's a fascinating image. It implies the sun is essentially typing code into the Earth's crust by squeezing these currents.
That is exactly the implication. It paints the picture of a planetary scale semiconductor. And the text doesn't just stop at describing it. The author suggests we can and perhaps should start hacking it.
Oh, okay.
This is the concept of the ionospheric gate.
Right, this sounded a bit like geoengineering on steroids. The text mentions ionospheric heaters.
It does. It suggests that if we use technology like, high-frequency active auroral research or atmospheric electromagnetics, we could artificially replicate that gate effect.
So we could change the density of the plasma in the sky.
To literally switch or tune the currents flowing underground.
Yeah. Why would we want to do that? I mean, playing God with the planet's electrical system sounds incredibly risky. What's the payoff, according to the source?
The source argues it's for stability and harvesting. Imagine a massive solar storm is coming, one that could fry our power grids.
Okay.
If you control the gate, you could effectively turn down the Earth's conductivity to prevent a blowout.
Yeah.
Or, more opportunistically, you could steer that geoelectric power toward what it calls Earth Battery 2.0 harvesting sites.
So unlimited free energy drawn directly from the planet's own circuit board.
Precisely. You stop burning coal and start plugging into the Telluric Currents. But the text gets even weirder. It suggests that if the Earth is a circuit, and we can control the switches.
Then the Earth can perform computations. It talks about planetary logic.
Exactly.
We're talking about the Earth as a literal computer.
A panpsychic connectome, to use their language. It suggests using the low-frequency window, a specific range where the Earth is most conductive, to create global-scale logic gates.
So instead of silicon chips doing the math,
The continents are doing the math.
that is mind-bending. And the software running on this continental computer? The text gets very poetic here. It describes atmospheric thought cities and infomorphs. What on Earth or above Earth is a thought city?
It's a beautiful, if confusing, concept. It implies that if you modulate these fields correctly, the environment itself becomes a medium for conceptual magic. You aren't just processing data like a spreadsheet. You're processing reality, consciousness, informed emergence.
Think of it like the cloud.
Right. But instead of servers in a warehouse, the cloud is the literal clouds and the magnetic fields holding complex thought forms.
It sounds like the cloud isn't just a metaphor anymore. It's actual clouds holding data.
In a way, yes. But the document grounds this high-flying theory very quickly by talking about something completely different.
Farming. I loved this pivot. We go from atmospheric thought cities and global computers straight to the dirt, the pedosphere.
But notice, it applies that same transistor logic. It calls plants rhizosphere-coupled biophytes.
Which is a mouthful.
It is?
But essentially, it's saying a cornstalk isn't just a plant, it's a biological sensor.
Exactly. Think about a plant's roots, the rhizosphere. They dig into the soil, they exchange ions, they change the pH. The text argues that plants are a distributed sensor network. They're the interface between the atmosphere and the underground currents.
There are like billions of little biological antennas plugged into the Earth machine.
And because they are antennas, they can be tuned. This is where we get the term lunar psionic farming.
Lunar psionic farming. I feel like I need a moment just to process that phrase. It sounds like something from a video game.
It does, but it's acknowledging legacy attributes.
Yeah.
The text explicitly lists moon magic as a legacy attribute of this system. It claims you can use these principles to accelerate or stop plant growth at will. It even mentions using Kabbalistic words to make fields fertile or reduce them to a desert wasteland.
This is what I meant about the collision of worlds. It treats Kabbalistic words, ancient mysticism, as just another command line input for the machine. It's not saying magic is real in a fairy tale sense. It's saying magic was just early, undocumented code.
Right. To the author of this text, a spell and a line of code are effectively the same thing, instructions for the field. And then it pivots right back to hard science with bioetheric CRISPR.
Now, CRISPR is real technology. We use it for gene editing today. It's chemistry.
We do, but the Lavemezhu version is enhanced. It describes cellular appropriation operations governed by lunar psionic directives.
So it's suggesting we can engineer cultivars plant breeds using a mix of genetic science and this etheric influence.
In a manner of speaking, yes. We're hacking the plant's DNA, but we're using the moon and mind magic to guide the molecular scissors.
So your intention matters as much as the chemical region.
That's what it's arguing.
Yeah.
It views the new sphere, the sphere of human thought, as having a direct physical impact on the geosphere and the biosphere.
Now, before we move to the human element, because I know the text eventually turns the camera on us, we have to talk about the physics that allows all this to happen.
Yes.
Because it's not standard Newtonian physics. It talks about counter space.
This is a deep cut into alternative physics theories. Standard electronics deals with the expansion of energy in space, pushing electrons through a wire. Explosive expansive force.
Right.
This text proposes utilizing centripetal suction from counter space.
Centripetal suction. So instead of pushing energy out, it's pulling it in.
Imagine a drain in a bathtub. The water swirls inward. That's the visual here. It's drawing energy from an etheric realm into our reality through these subatomic structures called coilons.
Coilons, like a coil.
Sort of. Think of a coilon, like a knot in the fabric of space-time, or an impedance coil. It's a structure that allows this etheric energy to precipitate into the physical world.
And who builds these knots? The text mentions etheric masters and structural trabeculae.
Structural trabeculae are described like invisible scaffoldings in the air, conduits that induct those telluric currents we talked about earlier. They allow for the generation of magic words within the connectome. It's really building a completely different view of reality, where the air around us isn't empty, it's filled with invisible architecture and wiring.
And not just architecture, creatures. My favorite visual from this whole section has to be the attractants.
Ah, yes, the magical nanoswarms.
Magical nanoswarms. The text describes them as having a blue-green opalescent sheen. It sounds oddly beautiful, like fireflies but made of data and magic.
It does. And their function is fascinating. They are described as talismanic beings. They
Mhm.
populate this geoelectric environment and create networks of benevolent energy.
And they're there to do what?
Basically, they are there to recharge the positive vibe of resonant individuals.
So if you're tuned into the right frequency, these shimmering blue-green swarms surround you and boost your mood.
That's the idea. But, like any technology, there's a security aspect too. The text talks about infomorphic scrambling.
This sounded like a firewall for reality.
It effectively is. If an intruder or a pathogen enters the space, the field effect technology can supposedly transform their informational essence. It uses terms like transubstantiation,
It literally rewrites the intruder's code to neutralize them.
weaponized alchemy. And for personal protection, it proposes transdimensional wearables.
Mobile safety zones.
Right. Imagine walking around with a projected safety cone or a perimeter that performs real-time diagnostics and photon therapy on you, all powered by the Earth's natural currents.
It's the ultimate wearable tech. No batteries required, just plug your feet into the ground.
Which brings us to the most intimate part of the document. We've talked about the Earth, the plants, the atmosphere. Now the text turns its gaze inward to the human gut.
The pivot here is wild. It claims the human digestive system is a literal and metaphorical inner Earth.
It calls it the microtelluric substrate. And if you think about it, the analogy holds up within the logic of the text. The gut is a tube, a channel, filled with soil, which is our microbiome, the bacteria and fungi that live inside us.
So just like the Earth is a semiconductor, my intestines are a semiconductor.
Exactly. It applies the enteric biofet model. It's fractal. What happens on the planetary scale happens on the biological scale.
Okay, run me through the transistor analogy for the body. If my gut is the channel, what is the gate? What controls the flow?
The gate is your polyvagal complex and your auric plasma.
The polyvagal complex is related to our nervous system, right? Our fight or flight response.
Yes, so the text is arguing that your emotional and neuroelectrical states,
Yeah.
stress, your calmness, your fear act, as the voltage gate. They modulate the conductivity of your digestion and your immunity.
So if I'm stressed, I'm closing the gate. If I'm resonant, I'm opening it.
Precisely. And just like we can tune the earth, the text says we can tune the gut. It suggests we should synchronize our inner soil with the geosolar fields.
This is where Surya coding comes in. I have to admit, I kind of love this concept.
It is a very specific practice. Surya refers to the sun. The text suggests sunbathing isn't just about vitamin D, it's about coding sun rays.
Coding sun rays, like a data download.
Exactly. By exposing yourself to the sun, you are impregnating your enteric system, your gut, with psycholuminous projections. You are aligning your gut brain with the planetary rhythms. It transforms digestion into a geocentric ritual.
So you're downloading the solar update patch directly into your stomach.
That is essentially the claim, and the goal is bioetheric optimization. But it goes even further than just general health. It delves into genetics and karma, and this is where the text makes its biggest leaps.
This was the part that made my jaw drop. The text redefines genetic diseases. It calls them knots or koilons in the etheric fabric.
Right. It views a genetic condition not as a permanent biological error, but as a snag in the energy field. And because it's just a knot,
But it can be untied.
it can be untied, but the way it suggests untying them,
Instant chronomorphic timeline reconfiguration.
this is perhaps the most radical concept in the entire document. It suggests that we can remediate ancestral karma, or genetic mutations, by substituting the faulty genes with healthy versions from alternate timelines.
I mean, just pause on that for a second.
Yeah.
It's not fixing the gene you have. It's reaching into a parallel universe where you don't have that disease, grabbing the healthy gene and pasting it into your current body.
Timeline substitution. It treats time and genetics as fluid, editable variables, using undo in a word processor, but you're pulling the text from a different document entirely.
Very ambitious. And how do we perform this timeline surgery? How do you access a different timeline?
Sound. Quantum cymatic transplants.
Cymatics is the study of visible sound vibrations, right?
Correct. The text argues that by reharmonizing the biosynons of the digestive system using specific sound therapies, you facilitate this timeline swap. You clear the karma stored in your cellular memory. Its vibration is a surgical tool for time.
It's sound healing on a multiverse level. And the result of all this, if you get your gut tuned and your timeline sorted, what happens?
You become a beacon. The text talks about prosocial microswarms.
The attractants again?
Yes.
Mm.
If your enteric system is healthy and resonant, those magical nanoswarms inside you enter a multiplier phase. You develop a resonant aura that has a blue-green opalescent sheen.
You literally glow.
Metaphysically, perhaps visibly to some who can see these fields, but the social implication is that you become a magnet. You attract other radiant people. You build networks of noospheric excellence.
Luminous pragmatics. I love that term. It's like you're glowing, but you're also getting things done.
Exactly. It's grounded in effectiveness. A healthy gut creates a healthy social network. It connects your biology to your sociology.
So your internal state dictates your external reality.
That's the argument.
So let's step back and look at the whole picture here, because we've covered a lot of ground, and I want to make sure we tie the room together.
We have.
We started with the Earth as a giant semiconductor controlled by the sun. We moved to plants acting as sensors and receiving moon magic.
Right?
We looked at the physics of counterspace and those blue-green nanoswarms. And finally, we landed on terraforming our own guts to clear karma and hop timelines.
It is a sweeping vision. The document calls it a unified geometric ontology. It refuses to separate the stone from the plant, or the plant from the human, or the physics from the magic. It sees it all as one interconnected, programmable circuit.
And the ultimate goal seems to be what the text calls terraforming the self.
Yes, treating your own health and biology not just as a medical checklist, but as planetary art. It asks us to view ourselves as instruments of the divine, participating in this massive, solar-driven choreography.
It's a lot to take in. But whether you buy into the moon magic or the timeline reconfiguration, there is something compelling about the core idea that we are deeply electrically connected to the planet we live on.
It raises a fascinating question if you follow the logic of the text to its conclusion. If our internal biology, our microtelluric substrate, is truly synchronized with the Earth's telluric currents, and if our emotions act as a gate that modulates conductivity, then it forces us to ask a very big question.
Which is?
To what extent do our personal emotional states, our internal weather, actually influence the physical geoelectric weather of the planet itself?
Are we controlling the storm, or is the storm controlling us? That is something I'm going to be thinking about the next time I step out into the sun.
As will I.
That's all for this deep dive into the strange world of Lavemezhu. Thanks for listening, and keep your gates open.
Stay resonant.